What's up guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be doing a very requested video on my DMs. Basically ever since I got this 23 Super Duty, everyone's been asking me, how are you fitting 38s at level height? So in this video, we're going to cover everything you need to know, from wheel and tire specs, suspension, trimming, all of that, so you guys can stuff 38s under your truck with minimal lift. Let's dig in. I'm Andrew, and I'm setting out to make better videos for diesel enthusiasts. Follow along as I review products, do how-tos, and share my personal trucks here on Just Diesels. So to start with, the most important part of this puzzle is going to be wheel specs. This is not something you can do on stock wheels. This is not something you can do on wides. You are playing with the game of millimeters here, and so wheel specs are going to be critical. This truck is on a set of 18x9, zero offset foundation 395 HD wheels, and it's wrapped in a 38-13.5 Nitto ridge grappler. To me, this 18x9 zero offset spec is just perfect for 38s. One, it's going to put it just far enough out to have a nice stance on the truck, but more importantly, it's going to put it right in that sweet spot between rubbing on the body and rubbing on the suspension components, right? In terms of wheel specs, you're playing with that game, right? It's the farther in you go, like a factory wheel where it's positive 40 offset, you're going to be all over the radius arms and the sway bar at full steering lock. You can't lift your way out of that, right? Because that's turning radius related. If you go with a super wide wheel, like a -18, -20 offset wheel, you're going to be all over the body of the truck. So you're playing this game of millimeters between avoiding the body and avoiding the suspension components. That zero offset wheel is going to walk that line perfectly on these Super Duty trucks so that I can have minimal trimming on the body, but completely avoid the suspension on the truck. Now, of course, there's a little bit of wiggle room. I've definitely seen people running the +19 offset version of this wheel with 38s. That does definitely require the Carli radius arms and sway bar for extra clearance. We'll get into that in a second, but I would say zero offset's going to be kind of your sweet spot. Obviously, not every manufacturer offers the exact perfect spec, but shoot for somewhere around there with an 8.5 to 9 inch wide wheel, definitely no wider than 9 inches, and that's going to be your bread and butter for making this happen. On the suspension side of things, I do recommend leveling the truck, right? If you have a factory trimmer, you can probably get away with this. More importantly, it's just going to make it so that for daily driving, you don't have to trim quite as much. Now, this truck you guys have seen in the air. I have jumped this truck. This truck has been run hard off-road, and it cycles fully lock to lock at full compression, you name it. Like, this is a truly clearing 38 setup. And what I'm going to be on is a Carli level height E-Venture system. Now, the piece of the puzzle here that's going to help us clearing 38s is one, just a little bit taller ride height, but also the fact that the Carli radius arms and sway bar actually add tire clearance. If I was running the stock sway bar and the stock radius arms, I'd probably be rubbing those parts, especially if I was with a little more positive offset wheel. But those Carli radius arms and sway bar are key to clearing everything on the truck. Other brand lift kits will work. I would say the Carli stuff is definitely going to have the most clearance on the market in terms of radius arm and sway bar. So if you're running a BDS or a rough country or whatever else level, just make sure that you probably run the Carli radius arms and sway bar for a little more clearance. The other key thing is going to be your track bar. This system comes with a new track bar that helps recenter the axle. If you're just doing spacers, you're going to at least want to do a track bar drop to help center the axle, because if your axle is pushed off center, suddenly your tires won't clear because now you have different specs on both sides of the truck. So that's one little element to think about on the suspension spectrum of things. Now, the final piece of fitting 38s in these trucks is trimming. And I want to show you guys, I'm going to actually take you on my truck and show you guys what I trimmed up close with the camera so you can actually see what's different, what needs to be done, and when I say trimming, what actually has to get cut. So to give you guys a better idea of what's trimmed here, I'm going to take you guys actually in the wheel well using my phone. So as you can see, this plastic piece right here has been trimmed. Normally this plastic piece actually carries all the way over to about here. The fender liner has also been trimmed, right? I just shortened the fender liner up. And then it's kind of hard to see, but I also did a fender liner pullback. So using a zip tie, I drilled 2 holes through the fender liner here. And then on the pinch weld on the backside, which I'll show you in a second, I drilled 1 hole through the pinch weld so that I can take this fender liner and pull it back away from the tire. This is key because without that, you're not going to have the tire clearance that you need as you're turning, and you're gonna have to trim more of the fender liner. So doing this pullback trick really helps to avoid trimming more of the fender liner. On the front of the truck, you're gonna see really nothing other than just the tremor valance. This helps add a little extra room, but no trimming on the front of the truck. Now looking underneath here, this will give you a better view of the plastic cap that's been trimmed, and I'll compare this. This is what a stock cap looks like, and then you can see what my cap looks like. So this one has been notched in here, retaining the plastic pin here that kind of keeps this cap on, as well as all the hardware that retains this cap. And then on the back of the fender liner there, And then at the pinch weld, you can see where I did my zip ties right here. And then I also did some trimming on the pinch weld and a little bit of the metal fender, kind of at the bottom over there. A little bit tough to see, but that angle probably shows you the best where I trim the metal here. So once this plastic piece comes off, you unbolt it right there. That'll give you access to trim the pinch weld and trim this back area back in there. But really, you can't actually tell the truck is trimmed. This cycles fully. I can jump the truck, I can bottom it, and really, unless you knew, you would have no idea that this truck was trimmed. So that's kind of cool. At the back of the truck, it's actually a perfect opportunity because the other day I really articulated the truck heavily. And you can see I just snagged the edge of the fender here. So all you need to do is basically trim right here, straight down, and then just a little bit in here with an angle grinder, and you'll have 100% clearance. So this only happens if you fully stuff the tires. So in a straight line, you're fine, but if you're articulating where one side's fully compressed, the other side's fully drooped out, that's when this happens. But again, super easy to trim, and you would literally never know it was trimmed. So I'll just trim that little snag guy off there, and you'd have no idea the back of the truck was trimmed, and really no idea the front of the truck was trimmed. So it's pretty cool what you can do with some clever trimming on these trucks, and they just have so much space because there's no fender flares, which we'll get into in a second. Now, I touched on it briefly, but one thing that's unique about these 23 plus trucks is that they do not come with factory fender flares. If you were trying to do this on a 17 to 19 truck that does have factory flares, right, it's a Tremor package truck, etc., those flares actually take up almost an inch of total fender well space. So you will have to trim those fender flares more. If you're running aftermarket fender flares, same story, right? They actually protrude into the fender well. You're gonna have to trim those a little bit more. So keep in mind what I'm showing you guys in terms of trimming. If you have flares, you're basically gonna have to cut away the flare that's anywhere present, in the things that I trimmed. So your mileage may vary on that, but just keep in mind, if you have flares, there will be a little more trimming of the actual flare in order for these to clear. At the rear of the truck, if you have fender flares, again, this is where trimming's gonna be even more important, right? So I showed you guys on this truck where I had to trim the actual rear fenders to clear 38s. If you have fender flares, again, you're gonna have to trim those flares to match that same thing. So actually a big chunk of the flare is gonna be missing, but just keep that in mind. If you are running flares, it does reduce your actual wheel well space. So you might either wanna run 37s, or if you're fine trimming the plastic, you can trim that. To me, the flares are disposable, right? They're very easy to take off and put on. So if you change your mind on trimming, it's pretty easy to order a new set of flares and put them on the truck. So I hope that helps you guys figure out what you need to run 38s on these trucks. It's actually amazing how easy it is and how little lift you need to fit 38s on these trucks. Ford made the wheel wells absolutely massive on these things. So with a little bit of magic in terms of trimming, wheel and tire specs, and suspension, you can make 38s fit with very little effort. It's pretty cool what's possible on these trucks, and I think this is actually the right stance. They just have huge bodies, and so having 37s, 35s, they just look small. 38s to me look proportionate to the body, look proportionate to the whole truck, and I think offer a really nice setup overall. So if you guys have any questions, let me know, comment down below, always happy to help, but I wanted to address this. A ton of you guys have asked this, and I figured I would tackle it in this video. Thanks so much, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.